Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we're going to talk about some movie news and rumors. But before diving into these stories, please be sure to smash the like button, and please support this channel over on Minds.com and over on Odyssey as well. They are awesome alt-tech media platforms, both based in cryptocurrency, and I know a lot of people have been very tired of everything going on with YouTube and big tech, and so those are alternatives for anyone that does want to leave YouTube and all the other places behind. I've been trying to watch as much videos as I can over on Odyssey exclusively for all the channels that I personally follow. There's still a couple that don't quite upload there yet, but I know a lot of people are in the process of getting their things uploaded over there, so please go check those out if you can. It would be fantastic. Links in the description. So the first rumor to talk about, again, this is a rumor, as reported here about Binding into Comics, is that Jennifer Lawrence might be making her Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU debut, as Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, in the Fantastic Four movie that's being filmed right now, or at least is reportedly being filmed right now in Australia, of all places. And so it'll be interesting to see how this all plans out. For me, I kind of have this weird history when it comes to my opinion of Jennifer Lawrence, because I was actually a really big fan of her early on. I remember when she was in the film Winter's Bone, and I thought it was completely fantastic. It was a very well done movie. Actually ended up being the same person that did another film I recently, or not really, about last month or so, I reviewed on the channel, Leave No Trace, which is another fantastic, a little bit more raw, gritty, realistic take on just life in general. And she was fantastic in that movie, and it really is what put her on the map. Then, of course, she went on to do The Hunger Games, which, again, first movie she was fine in, but then I think she kind of, fell into the typical Hollywood structure where it was kind of these over-the-top performances and these over-the-top movies, and it really didn't add a whole lot, I think, overall. And she's done a couple other roles in other films, some minor roles, or at least more low-key roles in independent films, and then some other giant big-budget films. Someone just recently on the channel mentioned the film Passengers and had recommended it, and so I think that this is something where, again, she's kind of had this back and forth. Then you add on top of that just the fact that, obviously she is never really shy about how she thinks and what she thinks about people, and has said some really crappy political things, and of course it's always very hard in many cases, especially nowadays, for us to separate completely the art from the artist, and so I think a lot of people will probably not be happy with this move overall, but looking at it from as an objective standpoint as I possibly can, I think that she would be a fine choice for this role. I think that she would be able to fit the role pretty well, because at the end of the day, she is a pretty talented actress. She's normally able to, put herself in the position of any of the roles that she can really play. The only time that I really felt like there was an issue actually was when she was in the movie Joy, I believe it was. It was either the movie Joy or it was the movie, oh my goodness, it was the terrible film that was made where it was like Christian Bale was in it. And again, I hate when I blank out on camera, and I hate when I blank out live on video. But it was American Hustle. That's the film. I knew I'd find it at some point. American Hustle, which was a terrible film, boring film. And the reason why it was like those two movies that I can always remember is like not being a big fan is because she was way too young to play the roles that she was playing. It was this clear mismatch, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. That all being said, I think that when it comes to this role, Sue Storm, I think that she is the perfect age for this role, and I think that she'll be able to get the actual characterization, because even in those other roles that I was just critical of, she was still able to pull off the role as best she could. She just didn't have those years of experience, and obviously did not have the age, I think, at that time to play those different roles and those different characters. But anyway, let's dive into this story for a few more details. As it says, Jennifer Lawrence appears to have a penchant for blue-clad Marvel characters, as a new rumor claims that the upcoming Fantastic Four film will feature X-Men and Hunger Games franchise actor Jennifer Lawrence as Marvel's first family's matriarch, Sue Storm. And that does, I think, raise already one of the biggest questions and one of the biggest issues, is the fact that she's already been featured in a now owned by Disney product, right? Obviously people would say that the X-Men was a part of the Fox universe, but to our knowledge, they really haven't done a whole lot to specify about whether or not they would be completely retconning that universe or acting as if that universe doesn't exist. We've already seen in a show like WandaVision, for instance, them bring a character from that universe into their show. So it seems to indicate that they are acknowledging that story and those characters are, and the actors, therefore, that played those characters are canon. And so it would be kind of an odd thing to see Jennifer Lawrence come in then to play this role as well. Though, of course, as we all know, sometimes Hollywood does not care about these types of continuity issues. But again, I think it is a legitimate concern for anyone to bring up. It says, according to scooper Charles Murphy, who citing both the Daily Mail's coverage of Lawrence's travel plans and a report by the Daily Telegraph, which claimed Marvel would be moving productions to bed down in Sydney for the foreseeable future, reporting that Jennifer Lawrence is already on her way to Australia to film the Fantastic Four adaptation. If this rumor pans out, Jennifer Lawrence will likely be the next actress to play the role of Susan Storm for the big screen in the modern film era, following Jessica Alba's portrayal in Fantastic Four 2005 and Kate Mara in Fantastic 2015, and neither of the franchises ever really got off the ground. Obviously, that first iteration did get a sequel, but I don't think either was really well received by the fans. The first one, I think, made some money, which is the reason why they were able to justify the sequel, but then the sequel didn't really do too hot from what I can remember. And then, of course, Fantastic was a complete abomination that likely was influenced by some studio meddling, but also it seems that the director may have had some issues, some personal issues in his life as well, even though he is a pretty, overall general, pretty talented guy from some of the earlier films he made that got him the gig in the first place. That all being said, I'm still very skeptical about whether or not they'd be able to pull off the Fantastic Four in this current modern day Hollywood day and age without it being completely woke politics driven, or at the same time not using way too much CGI to the point of it just being completely bonkers, crazy, stupid. But again, that's just my own thought on that. It says, joking aside, as mentioned above, Lawrence is no stranger to the spandex-clad world of Marvel superheroes in 2011. Of course, she played the role of Mystique, and that's again the reason why it could potentially be a problem, seeing that it exists in the Disney universe as such. And then it says, interestingly, X-Men First Class will be Lawrence's first appearance in a large franchise production, beating the first Hunger Games film to theaters by about 9 months. And that's actually something I did not know. And I've actually always been a very big fan of X-Men First Class. I've always found it to be a pretty damn good movie for sure. And then it goes on to talk about her role in Mystique. And obviously this is going to be a pretty big issue going forward, because she has established this role moving forward, and obviously I think that a lot of people are going to recognize that. Some other news and rumors that are going around are also that apparently Bruce Wayne's parents are going to be evil in the upcoming Robert Pattinson sparkly vampire film, The Batman, coming forward. And I know he's gone a long way since the time on the Twilight movies, and I know that he has been on record to talk about how much he hates them, but he is still sparkly vampire man to me. JB Augustin has the story over here from the Bounding of the Comics as well. Apparently, his parents, Batman's parents, are going to be evil. If this is true, this is just another sign, to be perfectly honest, of just how stupid Hollywood is at this point, where they can't even take a classic story and classic characters and do justice to them. So what they have to do is take it, dangle it in front of the fans, and then just crap all over it, right? Just when people thought we would get a really cool, gritty, detective noir style Batman movie, instead of giving us what we want and giving us giving the fans something that they could fully enjoy, they're deciding now to potentially play around with the plot, play around with the source material. And as we all know, when Disney, or not in this case Disney, but when Hollywood in general tries to play around with these things, it usually never turns out well. As it says, the Wayne family dynamic isn't perfect, but aside from their only son being orphaned and turning into a vigilante, Thomas and Martha Wayne are portrayed as good people, almost sinless most of the time. Steady changes in that image have taken root lately, changes that might grow more severe in The Batman if a new rumor from Giant Freaking Robot is to be believed. According to an exclusive by the site, Robert Pattinson will be playing a Bruce Wayne who discovers his parents Thomas and Martha Wayne were actually villains. They add their source is a trusted one that fed them the scoops Don Cheadle would be in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Josh Brolin is reprising his role as Thanos in the MCU. If true, it doesn't bode well for the Wayne's wholesome veneer. Kind of interesting to find out those things as well, because I had heard about them, because obviously I don't really care a whole lot about the MCU up to this point. It goes on. Our source says it will be somewhat similar to the interpretations we have seen in Joker or the video game Batman, the Telltale series, where the Waynes are revealed to be either outright malicious in some way, or at the very least, not that squeaky clean idols that we have seen in many iterations of the Batman world. And I think from what I've heard, the Telltale series versions of the games have not been as well received as the Arkham Asylum games, right? I feel like those games have always been very, very, very loved. And I remember some of the Telltale games earlier on, but I don't remember there being a whole lot of positive press around, at least from hardcore fans of the Telltale series in that way. I could be wrong on that, but Again, especially if it's going to play around with the characters like that, I don't think a lot of hardcore fans would be a big fan of it anyway going forward. It says, you may remember that in Joker, the Thomas Wayne Brett Cullen was viewed as an out-of-touch billionaire by a segment of the public that turned on him when he announced he was running for mayor. He also roughed up Arthur Fleck when confronted about the bogus paternity claim, but was it a terrible person through and through? Matt Reeves might expand on that and call into question the Wayne's reputation in the Batman's big mystery that's throwing the Riddler in the center of things. And obviously, I am actually kind of excited for this film because of Paul freaking Dano, who you all know I'm a huge fan of, playing that role of the Riddler. I think that, again, if Paul freaking Dano is behind it, it's going to end up being pretty damn cool. And so if I'm let down by that, I will be very upset, and it won't be Paul Dano's fault. It'll be Matt Reeves and the studio behind its fault, as we all know. Again, that's just how I'm going to stick with it. But it is interesting that they do bring up the fact that there was a more rugged interpretation of the character in Joker, but I think a lot of us look to Joker as being kind of its own thing. I mean, even they themselves have kind of already kind of insinuated that it takes place in its own isolated universe, and so therefore there's obviously direct correlations and connections to the Batman universe, but it's not going to be connected to any other major storylines. And so it also, too, at the end of the movie makes you question everything that you've seen up to that point, because there's a question about what is real in Arthur's mind, what is fantasy in Arthur's mind, what is he actually here? So one could technically argue that he's perceiving, in this case, Thomas Wayne in a certain fashion. So again, I think that all of these things are things that we could talk about and speculate on, but I think a lot of fans in general too would not be a big fan if they decided to go the full route of the Waynes themselves, but including Martha. I mean, it's one thing if you turn Thomas Wayne, I think, into a villain, because he's always been, I think, one of the more prominent parts of the history of the character. But especially when you turn Martha into one, I just feel like that kind of brings a big problem, because up to this point, Martha really hasn't had a whole lot of attention, at least in a lot of these movies, right? Typically, it tends to focus more so on Thomas Wayne. It tends to focus more on his father, but also the fact that the only real thing that I think a lot of us remember of Martha Wayne is from that terrible film BVS, where literally all you know is Martha. I mean, seriously, don't drag her name through the mud any more than it already has in that instance. Speaking of dragging through the mud, now, I'm sure there are some people who look to this and think it's fantastic, who think, oh, this artwork is beautiful, and oh, this is the Joker that we've been waiting for. I don't know who those people are, and I don't trust those people, because all I see when I look to this is just, wait, Zach, what are you doing? It's one thing if you're gonna make like an actual film about Jesus, but when you make the Joker, let alone Jared Leto's Joker, don a crown of thorns and do this very highly stylistic picture portraying this Christ-like Joker, can't help as a Catholic but be a little bit ticked off by this. And obviously, I'm not going to call for anyone's cancellation. I'm not going to be offended by it. But I just honestly think it's one of those things where it's a matter of taste, and I just don't see the purpose of it, right? It's not even that it's offensive to me at all. It's more so the fact that it makes you ask the question, why the hell is this even going on? Like, at what point in the movie, in any movie, would the Joker ever have to be wearing a crown of thorns? Again, from just a practical point, it just doesn't make any darn sense whatsoever. And so, therefore, I leave y'all with this. And as you all know, I'm not a big fan of Zack Snyder's universe. And obviously, this probably will be a better version of Joker than we've gotten previously. But, I mean, let's just be honest here. This, Jared Leto, again, You've been great in several films. This is just not one of your roles. But anyway, shout out to John the Flick Pick for setting me on to this picture, having apparently been making the rounds on Twitter, which, again, I'm not on right now, earlier today. But what are your thoughts about these stories? Do you you defend this image at all? Does it make sense to you? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think that the Waynes, Martha, and Thomas should be made into villains, or would you think that's a bad idea? Again, I personally do. And what are your thoughts on Jennifer Lawrence potentially being the Invisible Woman? Again, I think that acting-wise, she'll be able to pull it off pretty well. But yeah, I don't quite know if these rumors are true nonetheless, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash the like button, hit the subscribe, it helps out a lot. Again, please make sure you follow me and hit the like over on Odyssey and Minds.com as well. It is the future. You guys rock. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Also, a huge shout out to Priscilla, who is one of my newer Patreon members. I will be adding you to the end credit video as soon as I can. You rock. Everyone rocks. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members: Albertus Magnus, Ali C83, Andrew Hoyle, Animation Commentator, Brian P, Dion, Divex, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, The Honky Chonky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jay, Jeff Toon, Jonathan Carney, Laura Story, the Modern Major General, Mag Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Riff Magos, Rosetta Ullin, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B, the Empress of the Universe. Thank you so very much for being my Patreon members. And a huge shout out also to my Subscribe Star members: Stan 4, John B, Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, Darkstar 57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nebanon G. Adams, and the K-Man. Thank you all very much for being my Subscribe Star members, and to all people who support the channel. It really does mean a lot. If you want to support the channel and have your name shouted out, please make sure that you join on Patreon or Subscribe Star today. If you sign up at the $5 or up level, you also get access to exclusive giveaways, including for 4K and Blu-ray titles. At the $10 level, you get all of that, plus you get access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger. There's actually currently an episode that I made public on the channel right now, so you can go ahead and check that out. If you want to have more access to even more episodes and more content and the ability to ask us questions, please feel free to check that out as well. And if you join at the $25 level and up, the Chosen of Valhalla level, you get to have all of those things, plus you get a free t-shirt that first month that you sign up for it, and every month you will be able to access the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where me and my Chosen just talk for about 2, 3, sometimes even 4 hours about whatever it is that they want to talk about. So check all of that out in the links in the description below. You are all amazing and beautiful people, and we all have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.